Well, good Sunday morning, and thank you for watching Beyond the Headlines. Well, election season is coming to a close in the only way that it can, Election Day. In what seems like an eternity, it all ends this Tuesday, November the 5th. But following our talk on the propositions on the ballot last Sunday, what about the candidates? Well, we start with city races. In District 4, a handful of candidates will look to fill the seat being vacated by Alberto Torres. Laredo voters will face a range of candidates. You see them right there on your screen, including those with prior experience in other offices, city government roles, and more. And the choices even include someone you might not even see at first, a write-in candidate with a large social media following. Now in District 5, incumbent Ruben Gutierrez faces off against two challengers, Jose Ovando and Jesse Perez. Over at District 7, the race has sparked its own interest, particularly on social media, between incumbent Vanessa Perez and Michelle Molina, with Flipper Ramirez in the mix. Rounding out the city races, District 8 also sees a crowded field as City Council member Alyssa Cigarroa defends her seat against three other challengers. And that is where we're going to start with our first part of discussion. We've got our panelists, KGNS political contributor Sergio Mora and KGNS general manager Luis Villarreal. So last Sunday, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Last Sunday, we talked a lot about the city charter amendments, but we really wanted to kind of focus for our viewers, for those who might not know all of the candidates who are vying for city council seats. And some of these positions have a large, crowded field of folks.
Can I make a comment, though, before we get serious on this thing? I'm surprised by the lack of nicknames. We normally have a lot of
Flipper, Gordiloca.
Those two. But normally we have Jose, Pepe, and Enrique, Quique, and
that is true.
Güero, and all these things. But anyway, so
yeah, that is true. What are y'all's feeling? Some of these positions, the open seat. I mean, traditionally, an open seat always brings out a lot of contenders because it's a chance to get in there. And that seat, District 4, definitely has its share of folks wanting to be the council member for that district.
Yeah, that one is up in the air. There's no incumbent running. It's for sure it's going to go into a runoff, simply because of the number of candidates. I find it difficult to see that anybody will get 50% plus one.
Right.
So that will drag in a few more months.
So what happens, do any of you know what happens with the writing candidate if that person isn't in a runoff?
And makes a runoff?
It makes a runoff?
Yeah.
Is it still a write-in, or at that point it's just...
Basing myself on Alyssa Cigarroa's race, I think she was on the ballot for the
as
runoff.
the runoff,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure.
So is there anyone in this seat that kind of stands out to you all?
I mean, there's great candidates. All around.
Yeah, there's some here that are really making a strong effort to win their seat. We see signage, we see commercials, we see...
Yeah, it's a very complete list, if you want to call it that, as far as backgrounds, expertise. I mean, so it's an exciting race. I think you can...
It's very exciting.
I think they all bring a level of...
They'll bring something to the
table.
They
bring something to the table,
Well,
so...
I mean, we have Gordiloca. Everybody obviously knows her. It's interesting that, in the whole drama during the election season, she lost her main account, but she had a spare one with tens of thousands of followers, which is pretty...
What do you mean she lost her main account? Her social media account?
Yeah, her social media account.
I was not aware of that.
But she is operating. She had a backup one. Not with as many followers, but still. There's some people that have a lot of experience in city government, but at the same time, does that
translate to votes?
Does that translate to something that we want in a leader? Tania Benavides, she was on the Charter Review Committee. She's young. She's a great candidate. So it's going to be interesting to see where this
Who are your top two on that one?
I like Tania, and although I don't agree always with Gordiloca, she has bucked the system in terms of fighting against the establishment. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think that's what we need. I think that business as usual in the city got us to where we are, and we're seeing the same shenanigans and the same cynicism and everything. So I am always for someone that wants to come in and clean house. How
safe do you think Ruben's seat is?
I think Ruben is pretty safe in terms of. I like the other two guys, but I think he's a very good candidate in terms of he's very personable. It's going to be interesting because at this stage in the game, it just became really crazy that they decided to vote for the pay raises like a month before the actual election, which was a stupid, boneheaded move. If I were an incumbent,
But there's, but
you're opening
right
yourself
before
up,
people are
yeah,
gonna
like,
vote.
oddly enough, you don't hear a lot about it right now as far as
No, you do.
the opponents in their messaging. They're not necessarily talking about it, at least not in their traditional messaging, maybe
Yeah.
in their platforms, but
No, it's in mailers. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
They grabbed it, and the
So-
opponents are really going after the fact that they gave themselves pay raises. Again, I hate the cynicism where they tried to not only give themselves a raise, but say it's not a raise, it's a salary adjustment.
Salary adjustment.
Like, that's the kind of
do you want a
stupid
salary
stuff.
adjustment?
Hey, I love a salary adjustment. Can I have one, boss?
Does Flipper get into a runoff?
I doubt it.
Are the other two heading to a runoff, or do you think
It depends on Flipper.
it depends on Flipper?
Yeah, if Flipper gets 8%, 10%, then he might force the runoff. Michelle Molina, Vanessa Perez, it's a bloodbath. They've been going at each
On
other.
social media.
On social media.
That's the one.
It's
that
But
been
it's kind of
hard.
like a
Yeah.
soap opera. It's just become so nasty.
Very personal.
Very personal.
Very personal,
Yeah, I
very
mean, they're going
nasty.
after personal.
Do people enjoy that? Do you think that still moves votes?
I think that people will say that they don't, but that's what they love about politics.
That's right.
Yeah.
They do like the money.
Oh, they love it. They love it.
Alisa?
I think she's safe. I think she's safe. I saw Luxandra Guerra go up to City Council attacking Alisa and Melissa and Tyler about accepting pensions. Again, the cynicism, because those are the three that voted against the
pay
pensions.
raises.
So
Yeah,
there's just a faction that's just being really that we just need to get over in terms of.
Or is
how
there,
the city
you know,
is run.
again, and I'm asking questions of
Yeah.
Sergio because you're more in tune
Yeah.
into.
The
Are
data.
there clear camps supporting?
Completely, yeah.
y-
Oh, yeah.
And you see them.
Oh my God! Yeah,
but
they're coordinating and everything is planned.
Yeah.
Her going up there is planned. It's two groups going at each other hard.
So it begs the question, what kind of work are we going to get done in the next 4 years with these clear camps, as you mentioned? If those clear camps remain the same, is it going to be a bloodbath over the next 4 years?
It depends. It has to do with the balance of power in terms of.
But the power should be between entities, not between factions.
Well, you have two factions. One of them is the status quo, business as usual, wheeling, dealing, the donors, special interest, and the other one is like, man, this is really like this status quo, this sketchiness, this. Like we need to move forward. We need to undo all that. We need to set limits. But I mean, they've been in the minority in terms of you get candidates that you think are go in there saying, "I'm going to go clean up. I'm going to do the right thing." They get in there.
Speaking
And
of
then
cleaning,
They
doesn't
fall
happen.
in. They become
Speaking of
creatures
cleaning
of the
up.
And they
system
choose
quick.
a faction.
Speaking of cleaning up, let's go to the
we gotta
UISD.
go. Okay, so school board races are also on the ballot, and we're going to get started with United ISD District, where Gilbert Aguilar, the incumbent, he faces off in a very crowded field. Aguilar looks to hold off his seat against 4 other challenges. Now in District 2, Ricardo Rodriguez looks to defend his seat against 2 opponents. Meanwhile, in District 4, UISD Board President Ramiro Veliz faces off against 1 other candidate. And the last United ISD Board race is District 7, where sitting board member Frank Castillo is in a tough re-election bid against 2 others. So
So I'll give you my projection here.
Okay.
I
What
see
do you
Gilbert holding on.
okay.
I see Rick losing his seat. I think Ramiro holds on, and I think Frank will lose his seat.
Yeah, those are pretty good predictions.
Those are my
It's pretty
predictions. They're
close.
not my endorsements. They're just predictions.
Those are pretty good predictions. Again, UISD also has its drama.
It is
They
a
do.
lot of drama
Yeah, with the
inside of
cleaning
you.
contract, with the
Yeah,
superintendent
with the- yes.
selection. Again, you have a faction that's for the status quo. They were involved. They were behind that whole cleaning contract.
Right.
They really didn't want the superintendent that ended up getting the position.
Right.
They wanted more of a political guy to continue that scheme.
Yeah.
And again, it's candidates that are running against that. So hopefully, the people that are behind all of this sort of get shown the door.
On the LC board.
Well, on the LC board, okay, so higher education, Laredo College has a few contested races, including position 4. Now, position 5 will also be on the ballot as incumbent Lupita Cepeda is facing off against Lizzie Newsom. Now, so what do y'all think about that?
The campaign that Ms. Newsom has run is very interesting because she's focusing on mainly on the sports issue.
The athletics.
The athletics.
The fact that they did
athletics.
LC did away with
And
it.
that's an interesting take. I think it's a little complicated because there are a lot of economic factors that go into play there. It's not just we don't want the sports, but it's going to be interesting. Lupita has been there quite a while.
I was just going to say she's been there a very long time. So it'll be
but you're talking about fresh new blood,
there are two very strong incumbents in my opinion, like JD and Lupita.
And Lupita.
It just goes to show you how strong incumbents are getting challenges no matter what.
No matter how strong they are.
Which means that, I mean, on the other side of things, people are, not afraid to go up against an incumbent. And I think that says
You
a
think
lot
they both
for-
hold on to their seat?
It's going to be interesting. I like the campaigns that they both are running, Lizzie and Adriana, in terms of just the graphics, the billboards, they're appealing, they stand out. Ultimately, it's interesting because these cities are not just district level.
They're city-wide.
Exactly. So you vote for all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they like tens of thousands of votes they need to be a newcomer and right away jump into a citywide race is going to be interesting. I'm very interested in the
My
results
hat's off to anybody
of
who has the courage to do that.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the top of the ticket, and that includes races around the state and the one involving a former president. Let's go. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, it's not just local races that are the talk of the town. It's also those at the top of the ticket. None has captured more attention around the state than Texas House Race 80. That's featuring former Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin and Democratic challenger Cecilia Castellano. So this race has just been, wow. I mean, to the folks who have come out for the Republican and the fact that the Democrat has to now convince her own party that she's the choice for this seat. That's I've never seen that before.
Yeah, well, I mean, some members of her party, but the majority of Democrats are obviously for
I am
for
going
the Democratic
to go out
candidate.
on a limb, and I think the R's are going to flip this seat.
I think so too. I totally agree.
That's the issue going in that seat has been held by Tracy King for a long time. He could be considered a conservative,
A very conservative Democrat.
from a rural area. The last two elections, Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, when they ran their respective races against Biden and Beto, they both won in that district, like by 2, 3, 4 points. It's interesting, though, because now Castellano, it's going to be tight, and the projections are tight. But she is Hispanic, a Hispanic candidate in South Texas, also in a high turnout presidential race, also boosts up the Democratic candidates where the Democrats are strong. So by no means is it a done deal, but yeah, the Republicans are really banking on this race because it's one of the few races that are flippable that could go either way. And that's simply because of the dynamics in politics now. It's usually the contests are in the primaries. But you also have Greg Abbott very interested in the result of this race because his own party has denied him the votes he needs for vouchers. So by him coming and supporting McLaughlin, you know that there's a deal made.
That's a real
that
deal.
he's going to vote for vouchers.
How surprised are you that U.S. Congressman how surprised are you at the lack of activity on the R side against Henry?
That could be two things. That they see the numbers and they think that
They think it's
Henry's
unwinnable?
too strong, or the Republicans would rather have Henry in there. So I think that it's one of those two things, because you're not seeing the Republican National Campaign Committee come out guns blazing like they are in Cameron County against Vicente Gonzalez.
I want a nickname like
defending
Commander.
Monica and
It's not a
McCauley.
nickname, but I want to be Commander. I would like people to call me Commander.
Like
You're all right, you're
corporal. or
general.
something.
Corporal,
Yeah.
General.
General,
I'm
you're
actually
a general
I'm
manager.
Captain Picard.
Oh, that's right. You're Captain Picard,
That's
because that's
right.
what the parking space says. Well, we're going to move on to the other race. This race is making news. It's the race for the U.S. Senate in Texas. Sitting Senator Ted Cruz is seeking to hold off Representative Colin Allred for his third term in the Senate. And this is another seat that has generated quite the campaigning on both sides.
I think Allred had early momentum on this thing, but it all points to Cruz holding on to his seat. So.
He's certainly been making the rounds in South Texas
Absolutely.
and wooing a lot of
South Texas, and you mentioned it
exactly.
a couple of weeks ago or last week
Yeah,
about
Colin
how
hasn't been here.
you know
At all.
it's like.
I mean,
and do you seem to take it personally?
Yeah, like come on, like dude, like. Well, I mean, it also speaks to like our low voter turnout and like. But Beto made Laredo like a centerpiece of his campaigns. Always.
He was
I mean,
here a lot.
No se iba de aquí. Like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, Beto, yeah, like, go to their cities, you know. Colin Allred didn't come at all, man. And the thing is Beto, the movement and the energy that he created in his race against Ted Cruz, Colin Allred didn't create that at all, and Beto lost against Ted Cruz by 2-3 points.
How much do you think Collins Allred's lack of attention to us is the amount of attention that Senator Cruz was given because of the whole bridges and all that? Do you think he was like, I can't go there right now, he's getting too much credit? I mean, do you think it was calculated as to, no, there's just not enough votes in Laredo, we don't care about Laredo?
It has to be strategic. It has to be like, where can I make the best use of my time? But even in the primary, he ran against Roland Gutierrez, granted a Hispanic senator from San Antonio, was going to probably carry this area, so he didn't come then, and he didn't come during the general election either when Ted Cruz was coming a lot.
Right.
So, I mean, the polls are tight. And again, but we see this every single election. The Democrats might just take it in Texas this time, and my heart's been broken.
You know
too
what
many
I'm
times.
fascinated?
I don't have high hopes for it.
I'm fascinated by the psychology of people who vote that may not necessarily know all the candidates.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Hispanic culture
Correct,
and
yeah.
all that stuff. And it's like, so when you get to the ballot and you have two names, and one is a Hispanic name, one's a Anglo name, as a Hispanic, do you think people say, oh, I'm going to go with the Mexicanito here?
Yeah,
Or
that happens.
It happens.
It's just scientifically proven that happens in a big, big way. There's candidates, and I just saw it, a good friend of mine, Anglo, Hispanic, filed against this person, and they knew it. They're like, there's nothing we could do. We're going to probably lose this seat. And
Wow.
Because of the name.
and they lost, yeah.
Wow.
It's not like
Unknown
Jeff
Hispanic.
Johnson, the name you know.
Unknown Hispanic against a very qualified, very well-liked incumbent.
Yeah.
And it
Wow.
happened, yeah.
Well, let's move on to POTUS. It's the final race, and no one can ignore it's former President Donald Trump. He's hoping for a return to the White House, while Vice President Kamala Harris hopes to return to the nation's capital, of course, with a new title of Madam President. So, predictions. Is it too tight?
I think Kamala takes it, and I think chaos is going to ensue probably. I think that Donald Trump is already saying that there's going to be voter fraud everywhere.
He's planting the seed already,
Yeah,
so that people can already
yeah.
start thinking that.
The polls are deadlocked. They've never been this tight.
But the
Ultimately,
polls have been wrong in the last two elections.
last 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the closest gauge you can get, you know.
Yeah, they were so wrong with Hillary way
Yeah.
back then. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help to be worried about the outcome,
Yeah.
regardless.
Of what side?
Regardless on what side. I think the rhetoric, the polarization, the claim that both sides make that the other candidate is going to destroy
The country.
the country as we know it.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
We're both
I mean,
doing
the
it.
rhetoric
That
is
is
just
just
horrible.
wrong.
It's
I mean, that
horrible.
is like, you know, why can't we just be proud of our democracy and let it run? Why do you have to say it's this or death?
Yeah.
I just
The
apocalyptic nature of the posturing.
And just the insults have just been so
Yeah,
bad.
the insults, the misquotes,
it turns you off. It turns you off.
I think that the fact that the two camps are living in two very different
worlds.
realities is what is mind-blowing. And I mean, I speak obviously from the Democratic side. You hear a Republican talking, and you think they're talking about the Democrat, but they're talking about the Republican, and that it's switched. Like, it's completely, the narratives are completely switched, and that the other guy is a guy that's going to
Do you know anybody who's undecided?
There are.
You
I
know
don't.
people that are undecided?
But they're so disconnected.
everybody
from
by
You think
now
our producer is
knows-
undecided?
knows who they're going to vote for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's why it comes out to turnout. Like, if the Democrats mobilize their people more, they win. If the Republicans mobilize their people more, they win. It's
Yeah.
not as necessarily as much of a fight to convince people anymore.
How long do you think, well, first of all, do you think that Donald Trump would ever concede losing this
No,
election?
never, ever.
You don't think
well,
he
he never
conceded?
conceded in the
No,
last
he never
race.
conceded. He still hasn't done it.
Yeah,
for the
yeah, he
last
still
one.
thinks.
No, I
he
don't
should've
think. I
won.
think that if he loses,
Is there any scenario where he does? Like, is there something that could happen where he loses all of the toss-up states? Then he says, you know what?
if it's like a big
If it's
beating.
like a big beating, do you think that's the
But
only
the thing is,
possi-
Biden's was a big beating in terms of like electoral college votes, in terms of popular vote, and he still said it was stolen from him. So yeah, if it's a landslide, he will say that there was fraud in Pennsylvania. There was
Does Kamala
fraud here,
ever, do you see her conceding if she
Yeah.
loses?
Yeah, she'll concede.
graciously, and she'll be at the inauguration and the whole 9 yards.
Then Biden will hand the gavel to, or whatever it is, to Trump?
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
Wow.
Obama did last time. Obama was very gracious to Trump.
Gracious was not, Trump was not very gracious.
No.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well,
He
we're
didn't
going to take
shake
a quick
hands.
break. When we come back, we take a look at the one thing that our panelists cannot stop thinking about. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so the one thing, Sergio, that you can't stop thinking about from this past week.
Well, I read a great book and keeping up with the theme. It's Bob Woodward's latest book. It's called War, and he delves into the background of the Ukraine war, the Middle East war. You see Bibi Netanyahu there, and what goes on behind the scenes, and that you hear people talking about it. But when you read really good journalism, like Bob Woodward does, the dynamics behind the scenes, the negotiations, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Joe Biden has a lot of experience in the international arena, and Kamala Harris, the scenes she comes out in, very forceful with other world leaders, very knowledgeable. It's not a campaign commercial. It's just that's what comes out in the book, and sometimes
Wait until
this
after
gets,
November 5th to read it.
sometimes this gets lost because it's in these
So
formats.
I was scrolling the other day through the internet, and I found this thing about the 17 things that we used to be taught in high school that are useless. Square dancing, I guess, was one of them. I never learned it. The Dewey
didn't
Decimal System.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember using it, but obviously writing checks in math class.
That's helpful, but just not anymore.
No, I'm not saying they were not helpful then. What is this?
Oh, I can't see it. 'cause
I
your
can't
name
see
is
what
in
it
the way.
is.
Oh, there we go.
The home egg,
Boiling eggs.
It's
card
trigonometry in there.
catalogs to
Good
find
card
books in the
catalogs.
library.
Yeah, for sure.
How to address letters properly. All of these things were taught in high school at one point, and I don't know if they still are.
Wow.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Aw,
amazing.
Days gone by.
Days
Definitely.
gone by.
Okay, very
Maybe some of these
thought-provoking.
things should come back.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think a lot of
home
those
ec,
things need to come back.
writing
Okay,
checks.
so my one thing is so not thought-provoking. I just thought this was the cutest thing ever, Crocs for dogs. So when this came out on the Crocs website, it was just like a preview of what was to come. Well, the day came that they released them, and the Crocs for dogs sold out so quickly. You couldn't even find them anymore. They sold them for $49.99, and that's it. They're gone. They're so sold out, and I guess everybody just thinks that your dog needs a pair of Crocs. But Oh, well. I think all the money raised did go to a good cause, so, okay. Sergio, we have dogs. We need to go
Yeah,
try to
I
find
want
them.
some of those.
Yeah, I know. Well, that is all the time we have. We appreciate the time that you've spent with us. Thank you so much for that. We'll
Go
be back
vote on
here
Tuesday.
next Sunday for another edition. Absolutely vote on Tuesday. The polls
Many
open
times.
at 7 in the
Vote
morning. They
blue
close
all
at
the way
7 in the
through.
evening. Keep it here on KGNS. We will have all your coverage throughout the day and
Oh,
on
blue
our
and red.
digital
Cool,
news
dude.
desk. Bye, everybody.